Hello, friends, and welcome to the Powerful Podcast. I'm your host, AJ McCord. In this podcast, we introduce you to powerful women who are changing the game in and outside of their field of play. These are women's stories, women who happen to be doing things that many of us can only dream of, but the lessons and inspiration they share is universal. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Powerful Podcast. I cannot wait to introduce you to this next woman. She is a total badass. She holds multiple collegiate records. She has one of the longest hammer throws in the entire world. And she made history just a few years ago when she became the very first Native woman to win a medal at World Track and Field Championships. Janeé Kassanavoid is a powerhouse. She's an incredible human being. And she was on the cusp of making the Team USA track and field team this summer, heading to Paris. But the trials happening just last weekend in Eugene, and just barely missing it was Janeé. She still is one of my favorite interviews that I've done so far. And so I really, really hope that you enjoy getting a chance to know this amazing woman who is going to be, just someone that I think you guys are really going to enjoy getting to know and learn something from. So with no further ado, here's the next episode of the Powerful Podcast. Janeé, I cannot be more excited to chat with you, especially at the point of the season where you are getting ready to work your way towards qualification for Paris 2024. So first and foremost, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, I'm excited to be here and chat with you and get kicked off for this 2024 season. All big things ahead.
And speaking of kicking off, you kicked off with quite the accomplishment. The first qualification event for track and field towards becoming an Olympian was in Kenya. And walk us through how everything went down for you there.
Yes, Kenya is a place I love going back to. It's my fourth time attending the Cape Kano Classic this year. And so having it as a season opener, I felt very comfortable and confident. Of course, it's a huge haul of travel, 26 hours to get there, of course, in basic economy. So we love that, but we've done it before. It doesn't change anything. And we were just really excited to open up. And we've had some battles, of course, this fall, but all that aside, we were in really great shape. And so going out there and just having fun, the crowd, the energy, the culture that Kenya always brings was just uplifting. And so it was sunny and it was a great time to just kind of put all the work in and see what we come up with. And it was more than I expected. 75 meters is all you can ask for in international meets. So it really makes me hopeful for this year.
So I want to break down, a few things. First off, the basic economy. When I traveled for work to South Africa last year, I was basic economy next to a youth rugby team. And I was like, oof. This is really fun.
No sleep.
I love this. Yeah. No sleep. So I'm so glad to have you here. You broke down 75 meters, a fantastic start to the season. Before we even get into sort of what that means, for people who are new to the sport of hammer throwing, how would you describe your sport?
I still feel like I'm very new to it, but as now 10 years in, hammer throwing is very unique. It requires a lot of athleticism, power, dynamic movement, balance and coordination, all the things that I feel like participating in various sports growing up allowed me to do here. And I think it's just poetry in motion. It's very beautiful when the perfect throw comes together, and all the strength that I do in the weight room and taking reps and volumes over time has just allowed me to be where I'm at today and to go out and have fun and compete and be one of the best in the world now. I'm hoping to just get more girls involved at a young age and to have more well-known hammer throwers in the U.S.
You talk about poetry in motion. I was watching your TikTok in preparation for this interview, which never gets old to say. But one of the things is I was watching the videos of you hammer throwing, and I really did get mesmerized because the spinning motion with then the hammer throw and the release, it really is so artistic in a way, and yet this ball is 8 pounds, close to 9. So how do you develop, this is also a very dangerous sport if it doesn't go well. How did you talked about the sports you did growing up? Gymnastics was one of them, I believe, cheer. So how did you find your way through all of those other sports to now become one of the best hammer throwers in the world?
Yes. I was just very involved and competitive and loved participating in sports and being around friends and that social aspect, but also having, growing up with 3 older siblings who were also very competitive. And I felt like I was picked on all the time, but like seeing them succeed and have a lot of success in sports, I kind of always had something to live up to, or that pressure of being great. And so it was always like having that representation of Kassanavoid and being known as, Joseph Kassanavoid's sister. Oh, you're Jasmine Jaren's little sister. And I was like, no, I'm Janeé. And so kind of finding my niche and my passion. I thought it was basketball, my love of basketball growing up. Thought I was going to be in the WNBA, but my knees and the cardio, we didn't really get along. So thankfully I found something new and different. And I think even though I love participating even for fun in those sports, the burnout probably would have came because I started so young. Yeah. So I decided to bypass all of those in college and picked up track and field. And so finding it something new and different, and I wasn't even very familiar with the world of track and field and how it worked, and that you can participate in so many competitions outside of just the Olympics. It just means more, and it's hard to kind of have people understand why I do what I do. And the Olympics is a big part of that, of course, but yeah, I just love being athletic and having physical activity and having a little competition. So track and field being an individual sport and it being the hammer, it was just a challenge, and I accepted that, and it took a lot of time. There's no guarantee in this sport, but I think just with my work ethic and my discipline, just allowed me to progress a lot faster, and here we are. So
yeah. Are your siblings now saying like, no, actually I'm Janeé's sister, or I'm Janeé's brother? Have we gotten there yet, or are we still waiting?
They try to, put it out there, but their pride is so high. I just let them have it. And I like to say last one, best one, but it's okay. I don't want to hurt their feelings.
I mean, as the oldest sister, I'll take a back seat to my own personal opinion of that. It sounds like it's worked out very well for you, though. So your siblings, a massive role in your competitive nature, but your dad also played a big role in getting you involved in sports at an early age. Can you share a little bit about your relationship with him?
Yeah, I'm just growing up. Like I said, we grew up in the country of Lawson, Missouri, a very small town. And my dad was not only a father to us, working all the time, providing for his family and wanting us a better life than he did growing up in a Native community in Oklahoma, having those kind of negative environments, if you will, with high substance abuse, high prevalence, and having alcoholism and things of that nature, just very prone in Indian communities and things. And so for us growing up outside of that, he loves sports, and he always had a passion for sports, and his DNA as well. He just is a natural athlete and very good at sports. So his passion was baseball and softball. And he played softball for as long as he could, which he helped coach all of my siblings to be pitchers. So my brother was a very good pitcher from a young age. It also transitioned to him being quarterback. And then my sisters were coached to be pitchers as well. And then we all played basketball. And being young, I was in first grade going into second grade and had the opportunity, because my dad coached my older sister, Jaren, who was 2 years older than me. I played up with third and fourth grade. So just like having that natural athleticism, but also learning with the older group and being kind of thrown in there allowed me to just have that pressure put on me and to just excel and do my best. And I think I got maybe one goal that whole season, but of course it was really good to have that experience. And then so basketball, of course, was my first love, and I just really enjoyed it. And so growing up, like I was naturally just bigger, I feel like, than everyone my age. And I was always point guard. And then as we all got older, I was then like the taller person. And so I moved to a post. So yeah, just all areas I was able to just be thrown into any position and do really well at any sport, but also just having fun with friends was a huge plus. And so my dad, just seeing him work with my siblings one-on-one, he was very hard on them. For pitching, it was if he threw outside of where his glove was and he wasn't going to go get the ball or go chase after it, we were going to do that. And we would just be out there for hours until you would get it down or be perfect. So we were always involved, always at the ball fields. And yeah, I just saw that discipline and strive to be perfect in them, that I didn't really get those one-on-one sessions, but I saw it firsthand. And was my dad scary at moments? Yes. But I knew that he wanted the best from us, just to be good at what we did. And even though he passed away when I was 9 years old due to cancer, my mom didn't have that fire or passion so much for us to pursue sports as heavily, but she was there for sure as our number one fan, our supporter in any way possible. And being a single mother, of course, financially is hard. that cost that comes with sports, and trying to be in one place at once was kind of impossible with 4 very involved kids. But yeah, I give a lot of respect and credit due to my dad for building me. But I couldn't have done it without my mom, for sure.
Yeah. And it sounds like, I mean, your family just has, it sounds incredibly tight-knit growing up. And you
Mhm.
touched on your dad growing up within the Comanche Nation, correct, in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I have been so impressed is maybe the wrong words, but it's something that has been so I've been so honored to learn a little bit more of your story and how you have been very open with navigating your own relationship with your dad's people growing up outside of it, but wanting to learn the culture and then wanting to share the culture and wanting to represent the culture as a Native American woman.
Mhm.
And there is not a lot of representation of Native American women in a lot of places, but particularly in sports. How did you sort of navigated that journey of getting to know this part of you?
Yeah. Other than my siblings and my half siblings that were also born and raised in Oklahoma, I knew of them and my aunts and uncles and things to my dad, but unfortunately, it was just everyone was passing away at a super young age. And so,
Mm,
even though we got to road trip out there for some holidays when he was still with us, we just didn't have a lot of those moments and experiences and those stories to be told to hold on to. Didn't have the chance to also learn a language from my father and to learn what it means, that culture and heritage that most people do. And so it wasn't until really I got to college, with the education school system in high school, we maybe had 1 or 2 pages in the textbook that told us about Native Americans, and it wasn't
yeah.
really anything indulging about the true history of America. And so I made it kind of my duty to educate myself and to know what it means to be Native American and just who I am and where I come from. And so in college, being a part of the track team at K-State, there was a lot of diversity and people from all over the world. And they were very tight knit with who they were and their culture or religion or just the countries that they come from. And so it was a really big push for me to make those connections to my culture. And the more success I had in sport, the more I was shared on social media pages and
Mm,
the more people would reach out. And having the opportunity to go to my Comanche fair that we had never been before, to attend a powwow and to meet people of Comanche Nation and just have the outpouring love support of a community, not only in the US, but just Comanche Nation and Indigenous communities all over the world and the United States has just uplifted me so much more and empowered me to keep pushing and making the sacrifices to make it all worth it.
and I was doing a little bit of research on some of the articles that you've written in the past, and you talked about a few track athletes who were
Mhm.
Native American and had some amazing history within the Olympics, but the ones that you listed were both men. There was Jim Thorpe and then there was Billy Mills, right? So both of
Mhm.
those were men. And now here you are as a Native American woman. How have you navigated just the next step, the really big leap actually that you're taking
Mhm.
for Native American women by becoming this hopeful Olympian, right? But regardless of how Paris turns out, becoming
Mhm.
this sort of figure that is so open and so accepting and so honoring of that culture.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's kind of terrifying because never was this the dream for me or what I
Yeah.
even expected for myself when I was 18 and first starting out and was given the hammer and be like, hey, you'd be good at this. Go ahead and give it a try. And I'm like, okay. All I knew was,
You mean at 18, you're not thinking
yeah.
about all of the ramifications involved.
No, not at all. And so it's definitely been a step by step journey. But of course, just having that athletic drive and that mentality of wanting to be one of the best, it all came very easy. But the whole outside, the social media factors and having a voice and how I want to utilize my platform, the representation to be Indigenous and to be Native is very meaningful and is like the end goal for me. It's not about the success will come with the hard work regardless. Like I will never quit at anything that I will do, but because of all of that, it allows me to share my story and to represent a culture that some people will feel like is forgotten, and like just to say we
Mm.
are still here and to share stories and to share who we are and where we come from is going to be the most meaningful impact, hopefully, that I will have, and to leave a legacy, to not only to win medals but to also just hopefully give people hope for the next generation of athletes and young girls to be involved in sports or whatever it is their passion is, to continue to work hard and chase your dreams. because it is possible. And that I've never thought I'd be here, but if you just take a chance, there can be really good things that come of it.
I want to talk about your journey specifically through hammer and becoming one of the best in the world. And I do believe your personal best is the sixth longest throw ever in hammer, correct?
Yes, correct.
At 78 meters, which is like a lot. That's like a very, how would we contextualize that in, let's say, football fields? Like close to
Oof.
three of them or something? Three quarters of one, I mean? I think it's something like three quarters. So when you first started, though, I guess let's go back to how you first got into hammer and how you have gotten to the point where you have thrown more than 82 feet better than that first original throw that you had. How do you
Mm.
train to become a fantastic hammer thrower?
It's a lot. It is all year round. That's the beauty of track and field. You have indoor season, you have outdoor season, you have long seasons from March until August and everything in between. That was the biggest realization for me is when I started in middle school, it was 2 months out of the year and all of the meets, but maybe one were absolutely freezing in the Midwest. And so it was not fun other than the social aspect. And at that point in my career, I was doing everything. I was doing any four events that my coaches could put me in to participate. And so growing more towards just being a thrower and then just being a hammer thrower and excelling, it was a realization that I had definitely adapt to. And my coach, when I first started training, I was like, okay, I'm going to do whatever you say. Yes, absolutely. And if, I need to be out here throwing for 3 hours just to kind of catch up, like I will do it. And I was 100% accepting of whatever I need to do, I'm going to do it. And he said to just be a student of the sport and to learn and to watch video and kind of compare how I think I throw versus how other people throw and what they do well and what I could do differently and things of that nature. So it was a lot of visual aspects of learning the hammer and the throw. And even some of the greatest, I didn't even know who the American record was or who the world record holder was. And now I'm competing and have competed and even beat at moments those people. And I'm just like, wow, I started at 53 meters, thought 60 was impossible, thought 65, 70 was out of this world. There's no way. And here I am throwing 78 and consistently throwing 75, winning medals time and time again. And it's just mind blowing. And it's, of course, there's no doubt that the hard work wasn't going to pay off, but I've just always been told in my career, American hammer throwers, unfortunately, have just never gotten the job done at big major championships. And in my perspective was, okay, I'm not going to make any money until I medal. And so why am I sacrificing, committing my time and life and energy to this one thing and not getting the benefit of it? And so I just really made it a duty to step in the ring. I have to be comfortable and confident. And I've taken millions and millions of throws. I do this every day. Of course I want to, but it's also my choice. And so why not have fun with it and kind of grow with the hammer and just go out and compete and have fun and not have too much stress, allow the adrenaline and the nerves to really settle in and use it to my advantage than to be scared. Because this is my choice at the end of the day. And thankfully it's been rewarding, but it's definitely not for everybody. I can say that it is hard and there's a lot more bad days than good.
Well, and one of the things about your journey in particular, you had multiple knee surgeries when you were in college that you had to rehab and then go back to competing through. What did you draw from to get yourself, after a surgery into the PT, back into the recovery and throwing again? How were you able to motivate yourself to get back up time and time again?
It's kind of just this what we step into as being an athlete, and unfortunately just comes with the role. And it is hard in those moments because no one likes to sit out of sport. And I think that's the hardest part is we do have fun and we have that passion and love and drive for sport. It's hard to sit out and watch others participate and you just kind of like, oof, if I was there, I could do this, that, and the other, but we can't right now. We're sitting on the couch, binge watching Netflix until we can finally walk again. So that's really the hardest part is just not being able to participate. And when you do get back into it and you are getting released and healthy and in that rehab, it's just about trying not to rush it because we want to come back healthy. But of course we're like, oh, I can, it's me now trying to beat the ETA on maps. It's just that small little competitive factor of like, well, what if we can beat the timeline and get back faster? And that was kind of me early on just being negligent in my age of never being fully healthy when I came back in the weight room and in throwing and kind of rushing that process. So I was never fully pain free for a lot of time. But ultimately, those times of surgeries were taking 3 months off to recover, to get back fully healthy, and to get that discharge essentially from the doctors. And so I was feeling like I always was playing catch up, and I never had one full year, 12 months of being healthy and having that training under my belt. So I don't feel like my college career was what it could have been, but it was still very great. And I am fully proud of the work that I did there, having at that time the K-State record in the weight and the hammer, and being a Big 12 conference champion, NCAA All-American.
I was going to say, we can list the accolades. Yeah, right. We can list the accolades if you need a reminder of how proud you should be.
But looking back on it, I lost a lot of time. And that's just maybe my own fault, but I'm so proud of the work that I did. And I know the girls up and coming, like having started more in high school, they have like just a bigger start than I did, because I started later than most. But now, my first year out of college, I was fully healthy. I had a full year under my belt to train, and I came out with still like a 5-meter PR, even working with my coach remotely. So it's what wonders you can do when you have really good training and you're healthy and you're happy and you can get really strong. So we're still trying to push for that. But of course, being an athlete, it comes with it.
Yeah. I mean, I hurt my back more times than I could count as a gymnast, and it was never like, okay, similarly, right, this was like when I was in my teenage years, and so it was the same thing. It's like, no, how quickly can we get back? I don't care about the long-term ramifications. I don't care that when I'm 50, I'm not gonna be able to walk. Like, I want you to get me back out, because I've got a meet on Saturday and I got to figure it out. And for the record, I also always try to beat the map. So competitive genes, like, I feel you on that one. So that first year out of college, with all of those accolades, you mentioned a few of them. You were the Big 12 champ 3 times, 4 times All-American. You had your personal best. You set a K-State record. But for you, how did you translate that from a sport that you were still relatively new to figuring out, okay, now I want to make this a professional career? How was that? How'd you navigate that transition?
Just kind of the same transition to high school to college. I was honestly okay with being done with sports and hanging up the shoes. And before Big 12 conference outdoor, I had a meeting with my coach, Greg, and he kind of again walked me through what it could look like, and just being realistic about what it is to be a professional athlete in track and field, and understanding that it is very hard. You're most likely going to be alone. You won't have that team dynamic that you do in college. You won't have training partners. Half the time, my coach won't be with me one-on-one a lot. I'll be traveling alone, competing alone. And then the financial aspect is I don't have it. And so unlike, yes, it's a job where they're paying for my college and tuition, but I'm obligated to work for them in a sense, how that like D1 scholarship works, but not having any sponsors right out of high school or out of college, because I wasn't the best, but I was progressing, still able to develop and see where it can take me. I had to have a full-time job to pay rent and to just maintain cost of living, to give it a shot. So I definitely worked my tail off. I was working 60-hour days because like my family couldn't, afford to support me. So I was doing it all on my own. And then I was trying to push social media, because a lot of people had just told me, and I wanted to fight it, that you have to use your social media is to kind of put yourself out there and to market yourself to want sponsors to work with you. And I was like, no, if I throw far, they'll just want me. And that's not the case in track and field. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other aspects that go into it. And so knowing all of that, I was like, okay, well, I do think I still have room to grow, and I know I can get better. Again, with the injuries, I feel like now that I'm healthy, I can hopefully still keep progressing and not have any setbacks. So we decided to go forward. And my coach, of course, was all ears about wanting to work with me and continuing. That was not a question. But yeah, it was very hard that first year out, but I was really, really happy and starting to finally, I feel like, get the hang of it. Before I was just throwing and throwing and throwing and not really thinking too much about how to feel the hammer and what connection means and a lot of technical cues. I was just throwing to throw. And now I was finally dancing with the hammer, if you will, and could really grasp certain feelings, and had a little bit more confidence and had more experience in competing and being at like high level meets. So yeah, that first year out was really, really successful. And I think better than both my coach and I had expected. And that's what really kind of kicked this, hey, we belong here and we can really do big things in this sport. So yeah, we got an agent and tried to get into international meetings and try to get sponsors. And unfortunately COVID happened. So that put a real damper in the world and in life and in my journey, but it didn't stop us.
So before we move to that next phase, what was the job out of college? What was the full-time gig?
I worked at Big Lake. So I was working with adults who had intellectual and developmental disabilities. So it was kind of like a care provider for full-time care adults and also just adults that needed a little bit of support. But yeah, I was working early mornings from 6 a.m. to 8:30. So I was taking the adults to work. And then I would come back to pick them up from like 3 to 10:30 and kind of help them with their evening routine. I also was able to pass medications with the certification. So that was like a bonus in pay. And then on days that I had off for the weekends, I would work 12-hour blocks, 12-hour shifts. And then there was also like extra monetary value if you were able to sleep over through the night in case anything happened with the clients. So I really, really loved it. It was super rewarding, and I would definitely go back to it if I could. And they definitely pushed to like hire me on full time, but with the commitment and training and things and with outdoor season, I just couldn't make that to them. And it was really hard to move to Louisiana to follow my coach just because I had to leave that line of work. But it was awesome. And I loved every second of it.
What did you find sort of like, what did that tap into for you that it made it a really fulfilling job?
Just to kind of give people that better quality of life because it is so important. And even though they had difficulties just in certain aspects of their life, they gave me a hard time 9 times out of 10. But we were just laughing constantly and it was just super humbling about the opportunities that I'm given in life and how I'm able to live and what they don't. So it was just awesome. And people always ask me like, how do you do that? That's so hard. There's no way I could. And it's very natural for me to be kind of a caregiver and nurturing and things of that nature. So any way I could kind of make their life better and easier, I was all for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then you moved to Louisiana to follow your coach, Greg Watson, right?
Yep.
Greg. Okay. And so one of the things that I think is so cool about the coaching that Greg gave you, and I appreciated it on kind of a personal level too, of just how applicable this advice is. And I'm curious how you have integrated it, is one of the things he tells you is the equation for power is work over time. And you guys have now worked together for years and years and years. How have you seen that, not really a quote, but how have you seen that manifest itself to be true?
Yes. That was one of the first things he said when I got to him and was under his training. And I didn't know the equation. I was like, I don't know. I'm not a math major or something.
You're like, I was actually told there'd be no math.
Yeah. So I literally looked it up and then I was like, okay, yeah, it's power or work over time. And he's kind of metaphorically speaking with the hammer, the more work you do over time, the more patience you have and work on the ground will create a more powerful throw. So not only in hammer, but in life and in the career of track and field, the more time you can give to the sport, the more developmental period you will have with experience and time and reps and volume will naturally transition to farther throws. And so you look at Anita Wlodarczyk, the world record holder, 82.98 meters she threw at the 2016 Rio Olympics. She was 32 years old at the time. And here I am 29 and I'm like, golly, my back, my body, it hurts every morning I get up. I don't know how many years I have left. But to know that she kept getting better the older she got is because you just need that time. You need those reps and experience. And now it's like, I feel like, I'm still working so hard. I'm still committing and sacrificing and putting in the time. When will it get easier? But now it's like, I realized last year in 2023, I had a really hard time coming back into the season. I just wasn't feeling the same, wasn't in the same shape through the years. And I battled with injuries a little bit, but I still had the most consistent on average high level. Like my floor level, the worst of the worst, was actually better than any season I've ever had, even though technically on paper, I didn't have a personal best throw and there was no peak level for me. But I'd rather have that and perform best at the higher level meets that matter than have one PR throw in May when it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So that's just really like the work that my coach and I have seen and are trying to progress to get in a perfect world, everyone wants to throw a PR at the world championships and medal, but that's very, very hard to do. And so we're just trying to like map it out with who I am as an individual and the training that we're going to do and the timeline of competitions in a season. But yeah, it's been a journey, and we've had our ups and downs for sure. The coach and athlete dynamic, I'm stubborn, he's stubborn, our heads just butt a lot, but it's worked out in the end. And there's days where I'm like, hey, I'm going to go train by myself because I just need a peace of mind for a little bit. So, but it works.
Yeah. Well, so I was going to ask you about that because you touched on how individual track and field is, even though track and field as a whole, right, has like more
Mhm.
athletes than any other sport. You narrow it down to hammer, and you are traveling all around the world by
Mhm.
yourself. You're training by yourself. And that's a lot of time with your own thoughts. That's a lot of times to
Mhm.
either go really up or really down, depending on, the results of the latest competition. How did something like last year where you learned, okay, look, it may not have been my best year, but my floor is now much higher than it ever has
Mhm.
been. How did you work on the mental side of preparing for those moments and managing them by
Mhm.
yourself?
It's hard. But I think, just having that riff with my siblings growing up and constantly being like picked on and like, words hurt. But I think just I've always just been a very personal to myself, private person.
Mm,
And, losing my father at a young age, it's kind of like, how hard can life get? Because I don't think you're ever going to be given anything that you can't handle.
yeah.
Um, and so there are a lot of bad days in training. There's never really any, I'm not PRing every session. There's days where one thing will work and I'll come the next day and it's gone. And I'm like, dang, well, it's just very hard mentally. And track and
Yeah.
field, and especially throwing, is more mental than it is physical. And it's very, very hard. It's hard to kind of express and tell someone how to do things. But yeah, I've had conversations with, the collegiate athletes that train here. And I'm just like, there's athletes professionally, post collegiately, that have had really long careers where they haven't seen progress since college, but they're still out here trying to maybe one day make it work or see results soon. And I told them, I was like, I honestly don't think I could continue if I
Mm,
never saw a PR, just because in my career I had never done that before.
yeah.
Um, and Greg was just like, if you go anywhere in the world and throw 75 meters, you can make a very good career financially and like hold on to your sponsors and things like that and make world championship teams, Olympic teams. You can just make a very good career for yourself as a thrower. So that was just my mission. And for me, once I finished practice, even though it's frustrating or maybe some things didn't go as planned, I just allow that to be what it is and to
Yeah.
forget about it. Go home, go cook, go FaceTime my family, watch a show, do things outside of track that really give it balance. Sometimes our journal what works well in practice and try to go back to it every day. But I don't think too much of it because, again, sport's supposed to be happy. It's supposed to be a stress-free zone and just allow everything outside of life to kind of be cloudy and to get me away from things hard in life. So yeah, sport is definitely frustrating at times, but at the end of the day, I don't think anything too big is to make a fuss of.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I had to learn is because gymnastics obviously very individual, surfing very individual, and it's almost like I have to learn how to talk to myself like I would talk to a friend, right? Because like
Mhm.
I talk to myself in ways that I would straight up never talk to anybody that I cared about, and it's like
Right.
you have to develop that strategy that works for you when you're in an individual sport, when you're spending all that time in economy flying to Africa and back again. And it's a
Yes.
huge aspect of an athlete's journey that we don't talk about enough, the weight that carries. And I'm curious, as you've sort of moved into not just becoming the best you can be, but I know your passion so much lies in
Mhm.
widening the path for the next generation. How have you incorporated sort of talking about the mental side of it with, the generation you're trying to inspire?
Yeah. Um, it's definitely hard because I try just not like I try to just X out entirely the mental aspect, but training by myself, there's days, where sure, I can be out here on social media saying, "Oh, my life is perfect. It's easy.
Yeah.
We're going to go work out today. Come with me. It's so much fun." But no, it's not fun half the time. It's really hard. There's days here in Kansas where it's, the wind chill's below zero, -10, it's snowing, it's hot, it's blistering, humidity. But regardless, I have this opportunity and I'm able to still compete because I'm happy and healthy doing what I'm doing. And so I make that into a positive note. And there's days where I'm tired and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll push training back 1 or 2 more hours so I can sleep more. I'm just not feeling it. But it's just time and time again on the days that you don't want to, when you're able to push yourself because you look forward to training or you want to train. That's when it really gets a lot easier, but it's definitely very, very hard. But you have to have that inner self-intrinsic motivation or else it's just never going to happen for you. If you always have to have someone to hold you accountable, to be there to motivate you so that you are getting your work done, I would say for anybody, professional athletics is just not going to be it. So if you don't have that natural drive where it's you versus you at the end of the day, it's just not going to work. And so to say like when, who are you looking forward to competing to or who's your biggest competitor? At the end of the day, it's me because I wake up alone. I go to sleep alone. I train by myself on days when I'm supposed to max out. And I'm just like, my body is dead and it is moving like a block of cheese. And I'm just like, you know what? I could just go home and take a nap because who's here? Who cares? It's just me. It's my choice. But it's like, you know what? No, we're going to put some good tunes on. We're going to just get after it. And then we'll be really thankful and happy that we did it, 30 minutes later. And that's usually what works. But then there are days where I have to be smart and be like, okay, you know what? I did just travel 26 hours and I'm not feeling the greatest. Maybe if I just rested and slept and got some good fuel, I will feel better and it wouldn't be overtraining too much to where it would help me and not hinder me in the end. So there are some moments where it's important to be better safe than sorry or proactive and not reactive. But those moments definitely come later in the career than earlier for sure.
Yeah. What is the go-to song that you put on if you need that extra push? What's the song that's coming on?
Definitely the Powwow Stadium by Hallucination. It's like a tribal remix, very it's really, really good. It hits the heart, goosebumps, and that's usually like the good pre-meet song, but it makes me a little emotional too. So I don't know why I like it, but it's really good. Before meets, I would always even watch like a YouTube of The Rock or some motivational speech, and it would really just get the fire boiling in my blood and like really motivated. But then also like it makes me cry at the same time. So like, maybe it's a good mix, but I'm like, dang, why do we do this to ourselves?
I know, because it's kind of like you want to tap into all those emotions because they're what fuel you, but like I have to channel them correctly because if I don't, then all of a sudden I'm
drained.
scattered. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
What are the other pre-meet rituals that you have?
Breakfast is the biggest one. I'm very much a morning person. I love my breakfast. It's my favorite meal of the day. So really I'm not like too much of a superstitious person, but I do have to wear like the same socks just because it's important, the feel of my shoes. If I don't feel like I'm wearing my shoes, if they're not thick enough, if they're too thin and I'm slipping, sliding in my own shoes, I just don't feel grounded. So that I brought to Worlds last year one of the worst pair of Nike socks, even though I love Nike. They were way too thin. They were given in our kit, and I was just fighting for my life to stay balanced because I could not feel my feet underneath me. And I was like scared. I was like, well, dang, I don't feel like I'm tired or like my body's way off, but it was the socks 100%. So I thankfully packed extra socks that were the ones I normally wear. And I was like, yeah, we can't change things up like that. It scares me. But that's the most like superstitious. It's just the socks that I have to wear. Very important. But I love breakfast. I love just kind of like talking to my family because they're very supportive and they're always like, okay, when's your competition? What's the timeline? And of course they'd always love to see it on TV, but I just send them the link to where they can watch the results, pop up, watch the numbers. And that's what they know to a T, how to watch the live results.
There we go.
Yes.
You're like, that's all you can handle right now. That's all I want to give you.
Yeah, because even if we are streamed, they may see one throw and they're like, what's going on? What's happening? I was like, just watch the link.
Yeah. I mean, my mom would watch gymnastics the same way because it's like you're there for 4 hours, but I'm competing for a whopping 4 minutes or whatever, right? Between like floor bars being involved, it was like, it's just, so that's good. Just have them watch the results.
Yes.
So coming into this qualification year, it sounds like you are mentally in a wonderful spot. Physically, there's simply no doubt between the way you started the season and just the years that you have put into this. After missing the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo by just a few inches, how did that motivate you to do things differently, or coming into this qualification year? What are you switching up, or what are you leaning into harder to set yourself up for success to make this team and become an Olympian for the first time?
Yeah, we're manifesting for sure.
Yes.
But I think here, 3 years later now from 2021, we're just an entirely different person, and we've grown and have learned so much since then. And I think even though I could consider it as a failure, or, just coming so close, I think it just wasn't my time in that moment. Honestly, I needed more experience, more throws. I just wasn't ready. I was in the mix for sure. And it was, hey, we could be an Olympian. We could make this team, but it wasn't just 100%. So it was just the what if moment, and not so more now, transitioning 3 years later. And I'm 100% a lot better at what I do, and I am more comfortable and I'm more confident, and we just have more fun with it. There's no pressure really of like, we don't have a sponsor, we're so much money in debt, and I can't even really tell my family or friends what I'm doing in sport because I've given so much time to it. And all I feel like the world knows is to be an Olympian is what makes you credible or like valid in this sport. And having learned not making an Olympic team and coming back in 2022 and making my first world team and claiming my first medal and backing it up in 2023, I think my family finally understands, like, hey, you are kind of pretty good. And I was like, I told you.
You're like, have you not been listening?
But it's just very hard for people who don't understand track and field. It's not just every 4 years the Olympics. There's a lot more teams to make. There's a lot more meaningful things to happen in this sport and why we do what we do. So yeah, it is hard. And 80%, 70% of athletes in the US are unsponsored and still working part-time, full-time, just to support themselves for that what if, for the possibility of making their dreams come true. So I still want to do what I can to play my role in giving back to people, because I have experienced that. I was never just really great in high school or really great coming into college or out of college. I've had to continue to put that work in and find myself credible or now valid in sport, and being one of the best has just been super rewarding and humbling. But yeah, here we are.
Here we are. I do want to talk about that medal that you won at Worlds in 2022 before we move on to, we have some really fun little segments that I want to throw your way. But in 2022, you won bronze at the World Track and Field Championships in Eugene and became the very first Native American woman to medal at Worlds. As that sunk in for you, what did it feel like?
I'll play that video back all the time, the one that I made on TikTok, with the motivational speech on it, even, that makes me cry every time. But it's just kind of that moment of confirmation that I do belong here, not only as a woman in sport, but as a Native, that we are still here today, fighting that representation, breaking barriers, and being that inspiration that I didn't have growing up. Someone who looks like me knows that you can achieve big things. And even though it took me almost 10 years, but that the hard work has paid off, and that I can pat myself on the back and say, hey, you are good enough, you are worthy. And just to represent a nation that's much bigger than me, having that pride and that resilience and that strength through all of that is what allowed me to claim that medal and to win bronze. And just to have, again, that love and support of a nation behind me has been empowering throughout it. And it's been one of the most will be one of the most best moments of my life, until maybe we get married one day or have a baby. But it's definitely up there on the top of the list. Yeah. More medals, maybe gold. I don't know. But it was super, super powerful in that moment. Also because going over to my coach afterwards, and after that 6th round, knowing that I did get 3rd and it was my first medal, it was just like, wow, after coming off 2021 and here we are in 2022. And I knew a little bit of the possibility of getting that history breaking moment, to be the first Indigenous woman to claim a medal, but not 100% certain. And so it was just like, once I got my phone after that and it was blaring up and people were like, hey, you are like, it is actually verified. And I was like, no way. And not only 2 days before was Jim Thorpe reinstated his 2 gold medals. So it was just like a full circle moment for our people, and a very prideful one, to have that representation. It was really, yes, very, all of the feels, all the emotions. But it was really a moment for sure that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
I can only imagine. I think it's so genuine to hear you talk about just how you're embracing being that person for your people. And I can imagine that it's a lot of weight to carry with you as you try to go for your own individual goals. And you're doing it so incredibly well. If no one has told you
Thank
lately,
you.
you're
Thank
just,
you.
yeah, it's been an honor to learn a little bit more about your story. And the last thing I want to touch on is what you're doing with N7 and Nike, because I know you're sponsored by Nike. But as we talk about how you're working to have more representation to ensure that people still see Indigenous culture and appreciate its beauty and all the things that it offers, how are you working with N7 to ensure that that is seen in kits and in athletic wear moving forward?
Yeah, thankfully, after the success in 2022 and after 2021 is when I first signed with Nike and got to meet everyone in the N7 family. And honestly, they were just so welcoming and supportive of anything that I had in mind, not only for my career, but also as a hammer thrower and just kind of like the platform of sharing my journey. And so after my success in 2022, they were like, all right, we got to get you on a campaign. We're going to take you to Hawaii and do a photo shoot. And I had no idea the large scale was to be on a billboard and to be on the Nike website and to share my story and have like a voiceover of me just explaining what it is to be a hammer thrower, and to see that real time. I was just like unbelievable. Like I was just in awe of myself, really. So that was very powerful. And just to have people really tune in to hammer, because it's so uncommon and people are so unfamiliar with it. So to bring it into the world, to shine light on it was amazing. But also to our people, to be native and to have that representation. But really just to share my story, to use my voice in whatever way. And so finally last year I got the N7 logo on my Nike uniform kit, and I'm hoping, everyone's like, oh, you should create a shoe. So that's hopefully maybe the next goal in the works, is to create a throwing shoe with the N7 design inspiration. Would be amazing. But in any way that they can help, hopefully hammer camp sometime soon, even though the safety is a little concerning sometimes with young kids trying to throw things is the hard part. But definitely any way that I can give back to the community, to youth sports, to organizations. Like I said, I had a hard time with me and my siblings, my family, financially, just being involved in sports and having those opportunities and those resources. So any way that I can to partner with Nike or N7 to give back into communities, because that's what the whole brand is about. And any money that they profit on apparel, they put it right back into communities. There's grants, and they've went into reservations and have built basketball courts and skateboarding areas. So it's just been so rewarding and to be a part of, and just to continue to share my story, and hopefully touch others. So
Definitely touch others.
And now we're going to jump into Something to Sip On. It's brought to you by the Sports Bra, the country's first women's sports bar in Portland, Oregon.
So, what is your favorite cocktail or mocktail?
I'm a margarita girl. That's tequila.
Okay.
It's in my blood.
Yeah. Okay. Do we like any sort of flavor or spice, or just straight up on the rocks house margarita?
We do love just a house margarita with salted rim, but I'm getting more into spice, a little bit more into the Cajun. So definitely we love a spicy like margarita with like jalapeno. And then in the summer, something more like strawberry or peach or mango. So we love all things and flavors.
Okay, perfect.
All right, let's finish with Power Herd Up, where I'll hit you with some rapid fire questions and you can answer as quickly as you can.
First question, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, this one is not great to some people, but I'm a grandma at heart, so butter pecan.
Okay, butter. How did you get introduced to butter pecan?
My mom.
Cute.
Yes.
That's amazing. You're right. That is a little bit of an off the wall ice cream flavor, but if mama
Yeah.
says, it's all good.
Yes.
Okay. Are you early to bed or are you a night owl or an early bird?
Early bird for sure.
Early bird. Okay. What is a favorite place your sport has taken you?
Nairobi, Kenya.
It's pretty awesome. If you weren't a hammer thrower, what sport would you have made it pro in?
Ooh, I would have liked to have tried tennis. That's one sport I didn't try, but I coached it for almost a year and a half, and they make a lot more money. So
Hey, it's not too late for pickleball. We're just starting with pickleball. I'm just saying it's
yes,
all.
that is fun for
I'm
sure.
just saying. I'm just saying. What is your favorite dessert?
Ooh, carrot cake.
Okay. Um, you might be a grandma at heart between the carrot cake and the butter pecan. You might be.
Yep,
It's
that's
okay. I
everyone's.
won't. Oh, that's amazing. What is your dream vacation spot?
I definitely want to go to Thailand.
Ooh, okay. Why Thailand?
hmm Just a place that I feel like I haven't been and to really indulge in the culture. I'm a foodie at heart, so all the food there I think I would absolutely love and crush 100%.
Amazing. Okay. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I think just from my brother, he had always said hard work pays off. And so that's my big one. And it's written all over my training journals and on my little decorative piece over there as well.
Awesome. What is the thing that either of your parents taught you or one of your parents taught you that has stuck with you?
Just basically resilience. One thing from my dad, him passing young, but just always being a super hard worker and having a lot of love and showing love and compassion. And even though we weren't like financially well off, it was just always appreciating the little things in life and holding my
Mhm.
family close as well. So,
Yeah. Um, And then you talked a little bit about some of the dangers involved with hammer and
yes.
the some of the dangers involved with
Flight
hammer.
risk. Yeah.
Yeah, the risk, we'll say. So what is the wildest mishap you have ever had while
Oh
throwing?
no, there's too many. I feel like I'm most famous for my fails than my success.
I mean,
Uh,
everybody loves a viral fail, it all goes
yes.
back to the social media.
Yes. It was probably my second year, well, my first spring at K-State when they were traveling on spring break and I had redshirted and no one was up there with me. It was a little slippery. It had just rained and I was throwing a light ball. So I was in my third rotation, and in my mind, it was going terribly to where I could have stopped the throw and restarted, but I was kind of already midair, I guess, in this moment. And so I was already way faster than I thought I was in my mind in midair. And then I smacked almost what most people thought my face and my whole entire body on the ground and lost my wind entirely. And my hip like smacked the concrete. Thankfully, I saved my face, the moneymaker, and all my teeth are still intact. But it wasn't until like 2 hours later, I sent that video to my coach because we were working remotely at this time. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I think I have a bruise, but I'm fine. Nothing's broken." And he's like, "Okay, so I can laugh now." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess."
Tell me you've been a team for too long without telling
Yeah.
me. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Great. I'm gonna laugh now.
Exactly. And my family just remembers that video to this day. It's hilarious to them. But
Oh my
anytime I show it
gosh.
to anyone, they gasp and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, millions of views later, we can laugh about it."
Exactly. As long as the views keep coming, and we're fine. So that's good.
Yes.
Okay, and then the last question is sort of a two-parter. The first one is, what does powerful mean to you?
Powerful just means owning who you are and having full confidence in yourself, your love, and mine is loving who I am as a woman and finding beauty and strength. It is so beautiful to be strong as a woman. So I love like just the confidence I've found in myself as I'm continuing to grow. And I think everyone should have love for themselves because we're all very beautiful.
And when is the time that you feel the most powerful?
I feel the most powerful when I wear my hair in two braids, honoring our people and where we've come from, and competing on the largest of stages and throwing hammer.
And for those who don't know the significance of the braids, can you tell us what the braids mean for the Comanche Nation?
It It's just backing the braids when our people were in the attempt to be wiped out and colonized. We were with boarding schools, and our kids were stolen and taken, and our men were forced to shave their heads or cut off their braids because it was illegal to represent our people and our culture. And braids is one of those biggest things. And so for me, anytime I compete, I wear my hair in braids to show that pride and resiliency and what happened to us and our people, but also that we are still here and what it means to be Native American today.
That is absolutely powerful. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
This is a reminder to check us out every Tuesday, all summer long, everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you really enjoy this and don't want to miss an episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button.